Hi everybody, my name is Khadija Jallo and I am the DRO, the Deputy Returning Officer of the 2014 elections. We would like to welcome you to our second SUBstage forums today, and we first welcome the candidates to sit on the stage, please. So today's format will be that we'll have the rest half of the race participating. They include the VP External, the VP Academic, and also the Boards of Governor representative. Every candidate will be allowed a 2-minute of opening speech to briefly expose you their platform. Then they will have an opportunity to ask questions to their opponents for 30 seconds, then an answer, 1 minute, and we'll have at the end the rebuttal. After that, you guys are welcome to ask any question you have. So we'll start first with Curtis, who will present us the plebiscite about the recreation increase.
All right, hi everyone. My name is Curtis Dell. I'm here representing the Yes campaign for the increase in the athletics and recreation fee. Right now, as it stands, the athletics and recreation department will not be able to provide the current access to facilities and run programs at the efficiency that it is right now, unless this plebiscite is passed. So currently, right now, in exchange for the plebiscite, what some of the factors for students here that you will be benefiting from is a free admission to all home Bears and Pandas games for regular season play, 10% off the student store, the Golden Bears Panda store, sorry, and no increase to student user fees for intramural programs for 3 years and to the Lifestyle and Fitness Center for 1 year. Some of the negatives for this, if this plebiscite does not pass, there will be varsity athletics teams cut in coming years. We're not sure how many or to what extent, but that will be an ultimate consequence for it. Ultimately, for the students here, what's going to be big for you is the reduction in facilities and access and funding to facilities here. So things like the Fitness and Lifestyle Center, intramural programs, and other drop-in programs that you can access right now as students on behalf of Phys Ed and Rec, those resources will be depleted. And you're obviously going to see those changes in the coming years if this does not pass. Right now, the University of Alberta has one of the lowest athletics and rec fees across Canada for universities. Right now, it's at $64.92, and the increase proposed is for a $16.38 per semester for full-time students, and half that amount at $8.19 for part-time students. That is per semester. Like I said, we're one of the lowest across Canada. And for example, Toronto is $150 per term roughly, and UBC at $200 a year. So make sure you get educated, vote for the plebiscite. And again, my name is Curtis Dell, and thank you.
Thank you, Curtis. And now the Boards of Governors representative, and we'll start first with Sangram Hasra.
Take it off. How you guys doing? My name is Sangram Hanser. I'm running for the Board of Governors representative. Why that might interest you is because the Board of Governors has the final say on tuition. Now, if there's a tuition increase, hypothetical tuition increase next year, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I will fight hard for it, but I likely won't be able to stop it. What I'm more interested in doing is increasing our bargaining power over the long term, so that we increase our chances of successfully fighting it over the long term. How I intend to do this is first, advocating for the university to become self-sufficient in their non-dedicated funding. That's the root cause of why there needs to be a tuition increase, because every time the provincial government cuts their funding, they increase tuition to keep that balance. This is not going to take 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. To execute this plan, it's going to take 15 to 30 years. But while I've been at the university now for 7 years. I did my science degree and now I'm in law school. And it's the same thing every year. We try to fight it, we say no, and we get no results. We need to start somewhere, and I hope we get to the opportunity to start it next year. Second, I will advocate the university become more transparent in their costs. How I tend to do this is a number of universities in Ontario and British Columbia, their salaries are publicly disclosed. The provincial government's already done this for university staff. I mean, for provincial staff. What I want to do is advocate that a similar sunshine list is created for university staff. So any staff member over $200,000, their salary is publicly disclosed. That way, next time we go bargain when bargaining with the University of Alberta for when there's a hypothetical tuition increase, we say, listen, look how many staff members at the U of A make over $200,000. Look how many staff members at UBC make over $200,000. Look how many staff members at University of Toronto make over $200,000. Maybe it's not the provincial government cuts or the fact it's a student issue. Maybe it's the fact that you guys don't know how to manage your money properly. And that's how we increase our bargaining power over the long term. My name is Sangram Hansen. Check out my detailed platform. Check out my website at supersang.ca. Thank you.
Just that one? Yeah. Hello? Okay. All right. My name is Omar Farouk. I'm running for the Board of Governors representative as well. First of all, let's acknowledge that it is Pride Week and really that we pay attention to the LGBT issues on campus as well as abroad. The reason I'm running for Board of Governors is because Board of Governors does make the final decisions on tuition costs. They're not on? Is on? Okay, sorry. Board of Governors make the final decisions on tuition, as well as class cuts, facility cuts, etc. And what I believe is that while long-term change is good, what students need is change right now in next year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Short-term change is what we need, which is what I will be here for, because I will not finish my degree for the next 4 or 5 years or more, and that is much the case of many people here. What use is long-term change when none of us will be here to see it? And what assurance do we have for the next 30, 40 years when none of the people advocating for that change will be there anymore? That doesn't give us any insurance. That doesn't give us anything to bank on. But this is why I propose that we look at our financial regulations and look at where the tuition costs are going. Because right now tuition is capped. What the provincial government and the Board of Governors does add is non-instructional fees. These fees go towards facilities and such as your hallways that are not maintained. And I believe that if we are paying these fees should go towards maintaining these facilities and increasing them so it works for the students. Second thing I'll work on is having a proper appeal process that can make the Board of Governors and the university accountable to the students and the public. Because no matter what information we have on the university, it is useless unless we have a process to use that information and appeal it and make a difference. Otherwise, information has no chance. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Omar Farouk, and I'm running for Board of Governors.
Thank you, Umar Farouk. That was our two representatives for the position of Board of Governors representative. So now we'll pass with our three candidates who wants to be VP External. And first, Navneet Hinda.
Cool. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Navneet Kinda, and I'm running to be your Vice President External. Excuse me. Over the past few days, I've been campaigning and talking to a lot of students, doing one-on-ones, doing class talks, and the one thing that's really struck with me is that students really aren't all that apathetic, not when you're talking about things that matter to them. So a few things that I've been talking about, is summer employment, or how much tuition you pay, or, whether you can participate effectively in your democracy. I've also heard that maybe student government doesn't really matter, or the external position isn't relevant to students, but I do think that it's the most relevant position because I know that you care about your tuition, I know you care about your money, I know you care about the quality of your education, and I know you care about your future. So in that regard, that's why I'm running, and this is what I want to improve. If elected, there are 4 general areas that I want to work on next year. The first is improving our financial aid system. That means moving away from inefficient funding towards upfront needs-based grants. The second one is making it easier for students to participate in democracy. This year, the Students' Union was really successful in having advanced polls on campus for the city elections. Let's do this for provincial and federal elections as well. Third, I want to improve your post-graduation and employment experience. I know there's a lot of students out there who have a tough time finding a job, so I think it's important that we have a good summer jobs program, one that moves away from the unpaid internship model and one that actually pays you for your work. The other thing that I want to do is, close loopholes. We've heard a lot of talk about mandatory non-instructional fees, the international student differential. These are things that we need regulated in legislation next year. So let's make this happen. Once again, my name is Navneet Kinda. I'm running to be your Vice President External. Please check out votenavneet.com for more information, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Navneet, for this nice speech. Next candidate is Dylan Holloway.
Hi, my name is Dylan Hanwell. I'm running for Vice President External, and the reason or the way that I created my platform was asked a few questions and kind of figured a way to get the most students involved. So I thought, first of all, we've all had some pretty crappy job experiences over the summer, either shredding plastic or getting frozen cheese splinters from making pizza. We've all paid way too much money for textbooks, and we've all heard about budget cuts. So that's how I created my platform. My first point is meaningful student employment. So I agree with Navneet in the sense that we need student employment because when we're going through school and when we enter the job market, we need some way to say, hey, I have experience working in a professional program. I have experience working in a career-related profession. One of the things that how I want to do this and how I want to accomplish this is actually through expansion of the SKIP program. Right now, SKIP is an unpaid internship-ish. You get a $1,000 bursary when you're done. It's not enough. I think not only is it meaningful, though, but we could expand it to make it more profitable to students because you do have expenses that you have to pay for at the end of your job. Second of all, I want to talk about textbooks and open academic resources. So getting the government of Alberta to give grants to professors or instructors to create open source materials that anyone can download, anyone can duplicate, that essentially makes textbooks free to use. And finally, talk a bit more about budget cuts because although the government said we won't balance the budget on the backs of students, it was more balanced on the books and on our quality. We came to one of the greatest universities in Canada, and we expect a high-quality education. We expect one of the best quality educations in Canada. It's not so much that we care only about what we pay. We also care about how big our classes are, how many professors we are, and how much staff we have. Again, my name is Dylan Hanwell. I'm running for Vice President External. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dylan. And last candidate for the same position is Thomas Dang.
All right, thank you. So my name's Thomas Dang. I'm running for VPX. So I can come up here and talk to you about all the same issues everybody else is talking about. We all believe in the same things. We're all students that go to this school. We all agree mandatory non-instructional are bad. We all agree we need to have more political involvement. We all agree we want jobs these summers. We all agree on these things. And that's something that I'm not arguing about. I agree with the other candidates. These are issues we need to advocate for. But what do we do when advocating isn't enough? What do we do when this position needs to work with if elected, needs to work with VPSL to work on things like a bit more indirect pressure on the government. Things like saying, hey, look, we're going to vote in the next election, and because of that, you need to make sure our views are represented. We're going to do things like, if we have to get out there and put our faces in front of them to say, hey, look, we need to actually do something about these issues. We need to actually be out there in their faces, because what's going on right now is, yes, we can talk about our issues with ourselves. We can talk about the issues on SUTV. We can talk about the issues inside of the Students' Union and with other students as much as we want. But until we actually reach out to the public, we reach out to the media, and we reach out to other voters outside of the campus community, until we do that, we won't really be able to influence what's going on. We're looking at a situation where the government isn't really listening to us. I'm looking at a situation where I based my platform on 3 main ideas, which was fairness to students, social justice, and how to make this university something for us, making U Alberta ours. Because of these ideas, I really think that it's essential that we go out together as a team. We move that the VP External position, yes, is an advocate for 30,000 students, but the VP External position is somebody who has to work with 30,000 students, somebody who will actually be able to make change happen. And for these reasons, once again, my name is Thomas Dang. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/ThomasDangAB. Yeah, I'm running for VPX, and vote for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Thomas. This year we had 5 candidates who wants to be our VP academic, so we'll start first with Rebecca Platz.
Hi, everyone. Ooh. Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Platz, and I'm running on 3 main points for VP Academic this year. So my first one is that no more programs should be cut to minor only. I think it's really detrimental to our education at the university if we can't major in something that we want. The second point I'm running on is investing more in the bridging program for international students. Right now, only a couple of faculties offer it for every semester. I want to make sure that every faculty offers it for every semester so everyone has the opportunity to go to the bridging program and get what they want from it. And the third point I'm running on is investing more in student groups. I think they're really important for the university. If you talk to them, you get a lot of insightful views from student groups, so I think it's really important for the community. Thank you very much, and on March 5th and 6th, vote Rebecca Platz for VP Academic.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next candidate is Nisha Patel.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out today. I know most of you probably came to get lunch, and now you have to listen to all of us speak, so I appreciate you being able to chew and listen at the same time. That's a great first step. My name's Nisha, and I'm running for VP Academic because I don't think this university does enough to inspire students. It used to be that your university degree was special and it meant something, and now we take our degrees out into the real world and they're not worth as much as they should be. I think that's really sad. We also come to this university as a place of discovery and find that we don't have enough mental health resources and we don't have enough mentorship. We have great connections with our alumni network. Let's create alumni mentorship. It's so easy to do. The business faculty does it. I don't know why we're not learning for them. Let's also create faculty-specific mental health resources. Right now, we only have 8 or 9 full-time counselors at the mental health center for every student on campus. Personally, I've had to use these services before, and they're not enough. No student should have the burden of empowering themselves to seek treatment for a mental health issue. It is absolutely horrifying that we expect our students to do well without giving them the tools to do so. Your VP Academic is about inspiring you to do well in your courses, but also to learn the skills that you need to be a fully functioning member of this university. I hope that I have the ideas for you. Visit my website at nishapatel.ca. I'd love to hear all of your questions and respond to them effectively. Thank you.
Thank you, Nisha. Another woman involved in the same race is Catherine.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming out, and thank you for staying. Normally when I come to a forum, I jump right into my platform points, but I'm not going to do that today since I have 2 minutes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my history and background experience in governance. In my first year, I sat on the Arts Executive Academic Committee, which is one of the highest governing bodies in the Faculty of Arts. The Dean of Arts actually sits on this council, and I discussed things with her like the 2% budget cuts that came down in 2011. In my second year, when I was 18 years old, I sat on the Collective Body for Art Students, which is the faculty association for the Faculty of Arts. I helped coordinate events that brought humanities and social sciences closer together with fine arts students. In my third year, I both sat on council and was a member of the Academic Relations Group. The Students' Council, as you know, is a governing body for the Students' Union, and the Academic Relations Group works under Dustin Chellin, or when I was on it, it was under Dustin Chellin, We proxy for him on committees and provide him feedback on his ideas and academics. In my fourth year this year, I'm the student governance officer. So this means that I help advise student representatives, collect data on student representatives, and provide resources for student representatives when they need it. So now that I've told you this, I can honestly tell you that if I'm elected, the day that I start, I am ready to start implementing the things that I say I'm going to do. I understand the processes that need to be done in order to implement mandatory rubrics, create a textbook library, revamp the online textbook registry, and support departmental associations better. Again, my name is Catherine Nordzak. I'm running for Vice President Academic. Don't forget to vote on March 5th and 6th. And if you'd like to learn more, visit votecatherine.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Next candidate is Stephanie Groke.
Hey guys, thanks again for staying through your lunch hour to listen to us talk, even though there are a lot of us in each race that you get to listen to. I'm Stephanie. I'm running on a 4-point platform this year. My first point is to refocus in on the undergraduate learning experience. If you are a domestic student, you are paying about $526 per class you take. If you're an international student, you're paying about 3 times that. I want to ensure that you are getting your $526 worth of quality in every class you're taking. My second point is decreasing the cost of not only textbooks, but additional learning material as well. We can bring down and focus on textbooks all we want, but if students are also needing online resources, lab manuals, lab equipment, focusing just on textbooks isn't enough. The VP Academic needs to be working with publishers to undo the bundle so that you can get your online access code without having to buy the $200 textbook. As well as working with professors to ensure that if they're listing something as required, it's actually required for more than 1 chapter in the book. My third point is increasing support for faculty associations. This means enhancing Discover Governance's role and visibility within the university, as well as offering ongoing training to FA executives so that they can properly represent you to their faculties. My final point is I want to implement an online advisement report system at U of A. One thing I've noticed is that students are saying they're waiting weeks to see an advisor, and I don't think that's fair. You should be able to access your reports online from the comfort of your own home whenever you want. This is a system that UBC has, that Augustana has, that I want to bring to U of A. If you have any questions on my platform, please visit www.voteforsteph.com, and I look forward to hearing your questions. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Stephanie. And now the last man involved in the same race is Fahim Rahmat.
Hey everyone, thanks for the applause, really appreciate it. Thanks for taking time to come out today to listen to the SUBstage forum today. I know we have a lot of VPA candidates, and something that's really been talked about today is experience. I also have a lot of experience dealing with academic issues that relate to the classroom. I'm currently serving as the Interdepartmental Science Student Society's VP Academic. There, I work to represent and advocate for the best interests of all science students. That's a really large faculty where you're dealing with 6,400 science undergraduates. In addition to that, I've also served as a member of the Academic Relations Group for the past 2 years, directly working with the Students' Union Vice President Academic on issues that relate to the classroom, like the cost of textbooks, teaching quality, supporting student representatives across campus, and supporting student mental health. And elaborate on that last point in particular. How many times have we felt really stressed out, but not willing to speak out about what we're going through? I think that mental stigma on campus is a really important thing. And I think that it's great that it's been a rising issue on campus. And it's great that we're getting more resources dedicated towards it. But I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable speaking about their issues. Right now, a lot of academic policies say it's really easy for you to defer in midterm if you break your leg or if you're going through trouble with your family. But in addition to that, I want to make sure that if you're going through issues with your spiritual health or your mental health, you feel comfortable approaching your instructor and saying, hey, I need to take 2 days off from classes. Is it okay if you help me get caught up when I come back? I'm advocating for a more caring and compassionate university. And through my extensive experience with governance and advocacy, I want to be your voice. On March 5th and 6th, I hope you believe in Fahim and vote Rahman for VP Academic of the Students' Union. Check out my website at votefahim.com and have a great afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, Fahim. We've now just finished listening to our candidates, so we'll just give them the opportunity to ask questions to each other. And we'll start with the VP External, Navneet Hinda.
Okay, hi everyone. To my opponents, as the vice president of the SU, one needs to show leadership and capacity to undertake initiatives, which I think are basic qualifications for this position. What have you done specifically to take initiative and successfully lead a student organization or student movement on campus?
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so that's a really great question. Thank you. And one of the coolest things I think I've done over the years was create a student group. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out in my favor, but I created an idea called the Idea Expo, where students would bring together research that they'd collected or initiatives that they'd done, and they'd come and tell other undergraduate students as what I thought would be a way to empower student undergraduate research and as a way to get students kind of involved with one another. Another example of kind of engagement that I've done on campus would be with a fraternity that I'm part of. I was the philanthropy chair, and I organized, it was actually a really fun event. It was called the Hunger Games, and we raised, I think, just over $600. We got over 50 people out to the event for the campus food bank. And things like that, being part of the campus community and engaging with students, especially during this campaign, have been some of the most fun and meaningful times of my career, of my university career. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Dylan. Next is Thomas Dang.
All right, thanks. So that's a really great question, and it's a very interesting one because I haven't really been on campus that long, and I really haven't had that much opportunity to build relations into these student activities. But I have worked really hard to build relationships while I've been here. I'm a part of a fraternity as well, and I sit on the chair right now for the chapter bylaws chair, which works as essentially the executive assistant to their loss prevention vice president. So because of these things, and I'm working a lot politically in the provincial level to work and advocate for youth activities. I'm on an executive board for a youth group, things like that, and working towards how to lobby against things like when your step was cut or whatnot. So looking at all these things, I mean, I know I haven't been on campus for that long, but I've been working over the last year or two to really ramp up my involvement to fight for student activities and whatnot. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your answer. And next question with Dylan Hanwell.
Excellent. Thanks for those answers. So the reason that I asked this question is because this portfolio does deal with external groups such as government, but I think it's really important to have connections and relationships on campus with students. So during my 4 years here, I've done a lot of work, and I guess I could divide it into two pillars. One is I've done a lot of grassroots work, which means, leading students to do things on their own. In my first year, at the end of my first year, when we had the federal election in 2011, I was one of the students that actually organized the vote mob. So we had a protest and students marching all through White Ave to encourage youth voting. The other thing that I've done is organize and lead a student group called SNAP. It's the Student Network for Advocacy and Public Policy. And here I've really learned how to teach students how to write policy, how to go to lobby meetings, and how to actually get involved in making decisions. So I personally believe that these two experiences have been really valuable for me, and I think that they'll be valuable in shaping my experience next year if elected. Thank you.
Thank you, Navneet. Next question with Dylan Hanwell.
Okay, so I just have a question. External is also about building relationships with people, and specifically government decision makers, because at the end of the day, they're the people whose decisions matter the most. So I'd ask both candidates if they could give specific examples of relationships that they have with government decision makers, government officials, and experiences surrounding those.
And Thomas Dang will answer this question first.
Cool. I'd like to thank Dylan for a really great question. It's something that's really close to me because I am working to ramp up my involvement politically a lot provincially. So what I've done with my relationship provincially is I've worked and reached out to a lot of MLAs in my area that are friendly to the same sort of ideas I've had. I do a lot of meetings over the months with my MLA in my riding, along with MLAs in other ridings. I've also talked to MPs, especially Linda Duncan, who's the MP in this area as well. And I've dealt with people like that who are very friendly towards student issues, who are friendly towards the ideas that we do need to put pressure on government to make sure students' rights are involved. So I think that my experience with reaching out to people who are in legislative positions right now is actually quite extensive and quite useful to a portfolio like this. Thanks.
Great. Thank you for that question. So I don't have a lot of specific experience with working with parties, but what I have done on an individual level is work with my MP, go to his roundtable meetings, talk to him. I've participated in lobbying efforts with city council members. And one thing that I've done this year is, as a researcher for a lobby group called CAUSE, the Council of Alberta University Students, I've had the opportunity to meet politicians, to actually meet the Minister of Advanced Education and sit in on meetings with the other externals from University of Calgary, University of Lethbridge, University of Alberta. So in that sense, I have experience talking to elected officials. I go to a lot of different events, but I'm not necessarily involved with a political party at the moment. So again, my basic experience is with CAUSE as a researcher, and this has allowed me to develop relationships with other external members as well as members of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta. Thanks.
Okay, so now I guess it's my turn to talk about some of my experiences. And over the last summer, actually, I had an incredible opportunity with an internship at the legislature. I worked with the Deputy Premier and the Minister of Advanced Education with his office of 7 staff, and it was absolutely amazing, the people that you meet there. I got to walk up the steps of the legislature every day, which probably was the best part of my job. And you learn the intricacies and how tight-knit the group is within the legislature. It's not just government decision makers that we need to talk to, it's also their staff, their gatekeepers at the front doors, their scheduling assistants. And those relationships that I've built over the year, especially in that office, which is the most important, obviously, for the Vice President and External, I think I can use to my advantage, and I can take advantage of those relationships to get the best outcomes for students.
Thank you, Dylan. Next question with Thomas Dunn.
All right, thank you. So my question to the other candidates is very simple. All of us have the same ideals. All of us may have different ways of reaching those end goals. We're advocating for students because of student issues. What about your platform and your policies sets you apart from the other candidates?
Thank you for the question, and I think Dylan Hanwell would like to come first.
So when it comes down to content, I think we're all very similar. We all have relatively well-researched content, and we all have really good platform points. But I think for me, what separates my policy is how concise it is and how I've given it to voters. So, I'm not going to stand up here and spiel off 50-plus pages of a policy document. Instead, I gave you 2 pages of a policy document that said, this is why I have the things in my platform, and this is how I'm going to accomplish them. Step-by-step procedures. I think that the medium is the message in that sense, and when you put a huge platform document in front of students, in front of average students, and not just hacks, that they actually engage with that. And in that sense, that's how I think my platform is differentiated from everyone else in the race.
So I think that my platform and my ideas are actually really good in the sense that the message is the message, not necessarily the medium. the way that I approach policy is that we need smart policy, and that means looking into the facts, that means looking into what's already been done and how we can further improve on that. So in that regard, I do have a lot of ideas, and I think that's a great thing. I think that there are 4 general areas that I want to see improvement on, and in those general areas, I set up priorities. Some that I can actually achieve in a year, and others that are more of a long-term goal, and more things that just require, more research. So I think that's important for students. Generally speaking, my platform ideas all come from a place where I think post-secondary education needs to be more accessible, it needs to be more fair, and we need to improve the quality of our experience here. And that's how I approach policymaking, that's how I'll approach lobbying if elected, and that's how I think you should see your post-secondary education as well. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So I think what we just heard there was a lot of saying, my policy is the best policy because my policy is the best policy. And my policy is the best policy because it's best about research. It's the most that's going to help students. Advocating for that. Those are more fundamentally important than the facts behind the issues. Yes, the facts are important. Yes, that's what comes out when we're drafting the policy itself. But before that, when we're looking at our ideals as a whole, we have to say, what can we actually get done? Thank you.
Wow, he has problem with policies. We'll go next with the VP Academic, and we'll start with Nisha Patel.
A lot of students on this campus don't necessarily have the privilege of being able to take part in student group activities or access the resources that you do because of monetary and other barriers. What plans do my candidate opponents have for increasing access and reducing barriers for non-traditional students such as Aboriginal students, mature students, or students that are working or have children?
Thank you for the question. Does any candidate want to answer that question? Fahim Rahman.
Thanks again, everyone. Great question from Nisha Patel, of course. What I would like to do if I was elected as the VP Academic in order to reduce barriers from all groups on campus from participating in student group activities is to work with faculty associations. And the reason I want to work with faculty associations is because they typically already have a marketing or some sort of design team in order to better connect with their peers. And I'd like to support faculty associations because the SU has a wonderful $11 million budget. They can provide a lot of resources to faculty associations in order to help them better connect with their peers. It's really tough when you're dealing with a faculty of 6,000 undergraduates, 5,000 undergraduates. But if you can support your faculty associations, you'll be able to connect everyone on campus, regardless of their status or their race or their condition. Thank you.
Next candidate is Catherine Oridzak.
The question is related to barriers to student engagement. I believe that for many students, the most simple way to be engaged is to be engaged at the department level. So that is your departmental associations such as the Political Science Undergraduate Association, the Eng Phys Club, the Computer Engineering Club, the Chemistry Students Association. I think that providing the resources that the Students' Union has access to departmental associations, raising their status and giving them the materials and the knowledge and the training that they need to be strong organizations will reduce the barriers and increase their communication with the people that they represent, thereby allowing students to have the knowledge to be engaged and the empowerment to be engaged. My name is Catherine Ordzek. Thank you very much.
Next answer with Rebecca Plotz.
Hi, so one of my big platform points was investing in student groups. I think that's really important. I want to change the startup fund so it actually rewards students who have more members to start a student group. So that'll get them more involved. Tabling, I think, is really important because it gets the word out on a lot of student issues, and I think that's really important. So that's what I want to do to help with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Next, Stephanie Grulke.
Thank you for the question. What we have heard from all of the candidates is that we need to increase support for our faculty associations and student groups. Getting people engaged comes down to the level of the people they see every day. One of the things you spoke about was Aboriginal students. This means working with the Native Studies Students Association, ensuring that they can get their meeting spot, ensuring that their needs are met, working with other non-traditional students such as the international students to build and create an international students association so that their needs are also met at that level. I believe I'm running out of time, but check out my platform and my website for more information on this topic as well.
Thank you. Now, the reason that I asked this question in particular was that I don't think a lot of non-traditional students do have access, and it needs to come from both a faculty and a faculty association level. So I have good relations with a lot of deans of different faculties due to the committee experience that I have, and I'd want to work on getting more interdisciplinary learning out to students in other faculties, such as giving work experience programs to Aboriginal students or getting a strong international students association for international students. I think all the candidates have given me great answers today. I hope you check out my website for more information. Thank you.
We'll go to the next question with Stephanie Grulke.
Thank you. My question for my fellow candidates revolves around the nature of the position of VP Academic. As most of you know, VP Academic works very closely with the administration regarding your issues. I want to know what my other candidates feel is the most important committee that they will be sitting on if elected in the following year.
Thank you for your question, Stephanie. And I think Catherine Oritza would like to answer first.
Thanks for the question, and thanks for your question to Nisha. I think I forgot to say thank you. The committee that I'm most looking forward to sitting on is the Academic Standards Committee and on the General Faculties Council. This is a committee that, while the name is not misguiding, it's about academic standards. I'm most looking at working with this committee to look at implementing rubrics for assignments that are worth large portions of students' grades. That's all I really have to say about that. Academic Standards Committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Next response with Rebecca Plotz.
Okay, so I haven't actually had a lot of experience with associations, but I think it would be a great opportunity to work with all of them and see which one would be the most effective with academics and which would help students out on campus. Thank you.
Now, Fahim Rahman on the stage.
Hi, everyone. Great question by Stephanie Grulke. The most important committee that I think that the VP Academic sits on is GFC Exec, or General Faculty Council's Executive Committee. That's where all the discussion topics that come up at General Faculty Councils are discussed initially. Things like the Leadership College, International Differential Fee. That's where we'll be discussing really big topics that will affect everyone on campus. And the reason that I'd select that as the most important one is because I would be able to gauge what's going to occur at GFC, and then follow up with fellow student representatives on General Faculties Council, on Students' Union Council, make sure that they're ready to take on the issues that are going to come on. I want to really communicate with other students' counselors about what goes on at the university, and GFC Exec is where you can impact all of campus. Thank you.
And now Nisha Patel.
So my answer is very similar to Fahim's in that the General Faculties Council right now is incredibly important in terms of reaching out to faculty associations. It is definitely one of the most important bodies to be involved with, and I look forward, if I get the position, to working on that committee. But I'm also part of a very new committee called the Leadership Academic Coordinating Committee. I'm the only student at large on that committee right now. And what we're looking at is developing leadership potential for every student, not just students who sit in some sort of college for elitist to, like, you know, learn about leadership in the classroom. I think it needs to be better than that, it needs to be bigger than that. And that's what I've been advocating for already. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your answers. I agree 100% with Fahim that GFC Executive is one of the most important places where we should have a student voice and a strong student voice. This is where we hear first what the university is planning, and if there's something that they don't want to take to GFC, this is where it comes. This is where you can have someone in the VPA position who is strong and can bring the ideas and prepare the rest of the exec on what we can see coming into the future so that we're not shocked so much when we hear the IDF, when we hear Leadership College. We can prepare ourselves for that. Thank you so much, and thank you for your answers.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next question with Fahim Rahman.
Hey again, everyone. I hope you guys are really enjoying the questions. My question to all my fellow candidates in the VP academic race is, mental health has been a rising issue on campus. What do you think the role is in the VPA in supporting students when it comes to mental health? Thank you.
Nisha Patel will answer this question first.
Great question. So my first platform point is actually talking about mental wellness. I have 3 specific plans for that. The first is talking to faculty and getting workshops out to faculty members so that they know how to deal with issues as they arise. The second is creating more peer mentorship. Right now, the peer support center members are often students with issues themselves. They also need to be taken care of. Let's reach out to faculty associations and give them workshops as well. And the last one is creating a transparent work deferral process for individuals who have mental health issues. We don't have a framework in place right now. I think it's absolutely necessary to have that. And lastly, if there is more resources on campus, we need to have language-based services for international students so that they can comfortably access mental health resources. Thank you.
Next is Rebecca Plotz.
Okay, so as someone struggling with mental health issues, I think that it's really important, and actually not just the VP academic, but for all the vice presidents to be focusing on. So I would really love to see the peer support center expanded and a lot more advertisement for it on Sub TV and just posters around campus, a lot more tabling over the semesters. I think that's really important to see that happen. Thank you.
And now, Catherine Oridzak.
Thank you for the question. I also believe that mental health is an incredibly important issue. My plan for tackling this issue is to work with Council of Faculty Associations, which the Vice President Academic chairs 3 of the 4 working committees on. I think that mental health issues affect students in different faculties differently, and I do believe that the faculty associations and the student representatives on those are the key to knowing what the best way to handle issues in each faculty is. So I'd like to work closely with each of them and in turn with each of their faculties to create an approach to mental health that is faculty specific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. And now, Stephanie Groke.
Thank you, Fahim, for the question. And it's very important. Mental health on campus. Studies are showing that undergraduate students now are more stressed than they have been in years. One thing that I would just like to say, congratulations to the current SU executive for bringing mental health forward even more and expanding our services as well this year. I would like to continue to build upon this, including more mental health instances in the deferral process so that if someone is struggling, they can get their work deferred, as well as increasing services, mental health services, especially for non-traditional students, including international students who may have the language barrier. I think this is important, as well as expanding it, like other candidates have said, to faculty-specific faculty-specific counseling resources. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Right. If you can't hear me in the back, raise your hand up, and I will definitely speak louder. Sorry about initially. What I would like to, we heard a lot of great responses, and thank you to my candidates for that. I'd like to note that programming support is really something that's overseen by the VP Student Life. The VP Academic takes care of things when it comes to governance and student representation and advocacy. So what I would like to do is to make sure that academic policies are reformed in order to make a more inclusive and compassionate university. As I said before, it's okay if you defer a midterm because you have a broken leg or issues with your family, but it's really important that we accommodate for other issues that students can face, such as spiritual and mental health issues. I want to make sure that we're communicating that at the academic policy level and also translating those academic policies into the classroom so that instructors know about what changes afoot and that students know as well so that they're not afraid to approach their instructors if they need help or even their peers. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now listen to the question that Rebecca Plotz has.
So I'm going to lighten this up a bit because a lot of people are sort of mostly focusing on their food. So my question is Star Trek versus Star Wars and why?
I think Catherine is very interested in answering that question.
I certainly am. Thank you, Rebecca, for this question of most serious importance. I prefer Star Trek to Star Wars because I believe that Star Trek makes many claims about society, and especially the episodes from the 1960s are a cultural preserve of the ways that people felt in that time. American culture is very much reflected. I also believe that in Star Wars, the Force is not adequately explained, and it creates the series into more of a fantasy series rather than a science fiction series. With the exception, I do realize that the particles are explained in the first Star Wars, but not adequately. Thank you very much.
Next, Disha Patel.
So in a galaxy far, far away, there were only 3 Star Wars episodes that were worth watching. And in those 3 episodes that were worth watching, there was a story about a boy who could go out and be inspired to change the world using something he literally couldn't see. I think that's really great. I love that story. I think it's great. I would like to see more gender parity, however. And even though I haven't seen a single episode of Star Trek and only recently watched all 3 episodes of Star Wars, I think I've heard enough of the lingo to pretend I know what I'm talking about.
Next is Stephanie Guruke.
There's 6 Star Wars episodes.
How many are worth watching?
Beside the point. First of all, we have to look at, are we talking about the trilogy or the prequel, old Star Trek versus new Star Trek, because the answers are very different. I will personally always stand behind Star Wars. I was raised on Star Wars. I remember my dad taking me to see the second movie as it came out in theaters. What we need to recognize here is that they are both cultural phenomenons, and everyone will have differing opinions. But Star Wars is a better movie. Movies.
Hey everyone, that's actually a really great question, and I don't actually feel prepared to answer that. So what I would do, if elected as your Vice President Academic, is I would create a committee dedicated to the Star Wars or Star Trek debate. Maybe we have a student club that wants to discuss this. We've got great student groups for Lord of the Rings. Why don't we do it for Star Trek? Why don't we do it for Star Wars? I think I have about 30 seconds left. Who here knows Weird Al Yankovic? Then sing with me. A long, long time ago, in a galaxy far away, Naboo was under an attack. Thank you. Have a great day.
Now you have a good reason to vote for him. Next candidate, no, not the next candidate. We'll have just the rebuttal with Rebecca.
Okay, so if you look at just the plain stats, Star Wars is more popular than Star Trek. However, Star Trek addresses a lot of societal issues. They had the first interracial kiss on TV. They predicted the iPhone, they predicted the iPad. You have a lot of issues that they covered as far as totalitarian governments and everything, which Star Wars also did, but I mean with the Borg, Star Trek goes a lot in depth with it. And Captain Janeway, female captain of the Enterprise. Who can argue with that? Thank you.
Star Wars for life. Next candidate is Catherine, who also has a question.
To the candidates in the vice president academic race, I'd like to know how you plan on utilizing the Department of Discover Governance in your upcoming year, and if you plan on making changes to the department, which changes will you make? Thank you.
I think Fahim would like to start first.
Great question, Catherine. Thank you for that. I have worked a little closely with Discover Governance as a faculty association rep, and I'm really grateful for the support that they offer. I know that oftentimes departments in the SU are very overworked, so one thing that I would potentially push is making sure that they have more working staff in order to better support all faculty associations on campus. I also know that Discover Governance releases a number of great discussion papers that convert really technical and full of academic lingo documents, like the student group procedure changes. They can take really tense documents like that and convert that into something that's a lot more easier for any student at large to read. That's what I'd like to see from Discover Governance. I'd like to continue to have a great working relationship with Discover Governance, as I have now, as a VP academic of a faculty association. Thank you.
Next is Disha Patel.
So the main issue with Discover Governance right now is that most student groups that are not student representative groups don't know that it exists, even though the resources are available to them. So first would be a marketing plan to make sure that student groups actually know they have these resources administered often through SGS or student group services, which sends out messages to groups all the time. I think that's the best way to go about it. Secondly, would kind of to make it a more consultative body, so you can drop in with issues that you have at any time or during certain advising hours, not just for student representatives. I think the resources that they have are very technical and policy oriented. Not every group on campus is that academic. I think more student groups can access these resources if we make them more accessible in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Catherine. This is one of my platform points, is that I do want to enhance Discover Governance's role and visibility within campus. As Nisha pointed out, is a lot of student groups, even faculty associations, don't know how helpful Discover Governance can be. How do I plan to change it? I think that it would be very irresponsible of me to stand on stage and tell Discover Governance what I'm going to do to them. I think this results on day one of my term, if I'm elected, of meeting with the Discover Governance manager and the student governance officer to see what more resources they need, because they are spread thin. There are 2 people trying to provide for 14 faculty associations and a countless amount of student groups. I think that they need help, and I think that it's a VPA's role to ensure that they are thriving in their positions. Did that answer your question? Yeah? Okay. Thank you, and I look forward to hopefully working with the Discover Governance Manager and SGO.
Lastly, Rebecca Plotz.
So I don't really have any experience with Discover Governance, so I would have to work with them to see what needs to be changed, if anything needs to be changed. And that's all I can say on it. Thank you.
Thank you for all those wonderful answers. If elected in the upcoming year, I would, of course, love to work with Discover Governance. The Vice President Academic definitely has been working closely with them over the past year. I believe that Discover Governance could provide better and more support to student representative associations and student representatives in general if they were expanded. So I would definitely like to make negotiations with the Discover Governance manager to expand. I'd also like to give Discover Governance. Right now, the Vice President Academic has a rather large role in planning the student representative retreat. I would also like to transfer power away from the academic portfolio into Discover Governance to plan the representative retreats that happen twice per year. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. That was our VP Academic, and now the final battle with the Boards of Governor representative, and we'll start with Sangram Hansra.
So as many of you may or may not know, the Board of Governors can sit on 2 committees on the board. My question for my fellow candidate is, what 2 committees would you would like to sit on the board?
My name is Umar Farouk. I'm also running for the Board of Governors. I'd like to thank Mr. Hanshaw for the excellent question. I am a new student. I'm one of the youngest people to ever be a candidate for the Board of Governors position. That being the case, I haven't sat on the Board of Governors meetings as of yet. But the 2 things that I would, 2 councils that I would sit on with the Board of Governors would be to those to deal with appeal processes to the policies being made, so that we can have some accountability towards the students and the policies being made and discuss them, as well as kind of connect the Board of Governors, as well as work towards connecting the Board of Governors to student groups and make them more public and more accountable. I realize that this is a bit of a vague answer and doesn't give concrete names of councils, but thank you for sticking with me and for coming out today. Thank you.
So I don't think the Board of Governors actually deals with appeals. But what the Board of Governors does deal in the 2 committees that I will sit on is, first, the financial, I would like to sit on, is the Financial and Property Committee. I've been talking about non-dedicated funding and becoming self-sufficient. If we do want to become self-sufficient, and where for me, the best opportune location for me to advocate for this is the Financial and Property Committee. The second committee I'd like to sit on, and what I think is what's very useful and very important for you, for all students, is the Learning and Discovery Committee. This is the committee that deals with issues such as, the education and research and the future direction of our university. Being on this committee will allow me to help direct the future education and the research of our university and the direction of this university, and represent students effectively on this committee. Thank you.
Hello again. Well, my name is Umar Farouk, and I'm running for the Board of Governors. Question I want to ask the other candidate is that there's been a lot of talk about the future of the University of Alberta, future when it comes to being financial, being self-sustainable, as well as future educational directions. But as we all know, it needs to be realized that these goals and directions are 30, 40 years down the line. What can you do that will result in tangible results that affect the students now and next 2-3 years that it takes us to get a degree? What would you do for things that affect us now in this present day? Not 40 years down the line when our grandchildren will be going to the university.
Thank you for your question, Yuma.
Yeah. Sorry, thank you.
So the Board of Governors is about building relationships. It's about building relationships and starting somewhere. It's a 1-year term. These Board of Governor representatives are there for 5, 10 years. So for a 1-year term, we can do very little. But what we can do is start improving our relationships, building those relationships so that future leaders and future Board of Governor representatives can achieve tangible results. One of the things I'm advocating for is that sunshine list. Universities all over the country have this. The provincial government recently allowed it for a sunshine list similar to this, for provincial employees. What we can do is try to get a similar list for for the university staff. The second thing that we can do over the short term is the collective bargaining agreement is coming up next year. That's going to be a big thing because academic staff, the collective bargaining agreement for academic staff is going to be up, and the Board of Governor representative for students is going to be part of the negotiation processes on this. Second of all, the president's term is likely up, and if she retires, it's going to be about finding a new president and hopefully lowering her wages for that. I'm Sangram Hanson. I'm running for the Board of Governors. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pass now to the rebuttal.
I'd like to thank Mr. Hansard for the answer. When it comes to tangible results and getting lists like Sunshine List, so we have information on the academic staff, on administrative staff, and how much they make. This is completely fine. We have the information, but there is no procedural process or appeal process for us to use this information and hold them accountable for it. This is why I propose that we make an appeal process and an independent judiciary board that can hold the Board of Governors accountable for its actions, as well as the administrative association facilities for their actions in what affects the students right now. This builds a base within the first year term for us to be able to hold them accountable in the near future and make tangible results, and for the Board of Governors to hold the other representative accountable and to make sure the students' needs and wants are being answered now. Thank you.
We'll now take any question from the audience. Do you guys have some questions to ask them? Yay.
This question is for Dylan. It's not on. Do I need to turn it on?
Okay. Yeah, he can ask who anyone. Oh, he can come ask here. Yeah, on the stage, no problem.
Okay, this question is for the VPX candidates. All of you have talked about budget cuts and mandatory non-instructional fees. Dylan, specifically in your platform, your last point is about talking about the cuts to the media. But I don't feel that point is really developed. So I just want to understand how the three of you plan to work with the university and the government in regards to budget cuts and mandatory non-instructional fees, and how you plan to do that.
Okay, and thank you for the question. So I'm going to say the first half of the question was kind of directed at me, and the second half was more to the rest of the candidates, so you could ask it to the race. So for communicating to the media, I think at the very basic level, we just have to say it at every single chance we get. And it wouldn't be just me. First of all, whenever there's a quality issue, or whenever the voluntary severance package comes out, or something like that, you have to work with DERPA, or advocacy, and talk about how, hey, this quality issue is happening, and you have to make sure that when you're talking in interviews and when you're talking to media, that you always tie back quality to the amount of money that the university is getting. And I think in that way, it creates a connection between not only the government, but the public's mindset that operating grants are intrinsically tied to quality of education for undergraduate students. Hopefully that answers it relatively well. Yeah.
I'm going to need to rephrase.
Great, thank you for that question. So one thing that I think is really important is that we do more than just talking about the budget being cut. I think everybody knows that happened. One thing that I think the SU did a really good job this year was talking to the media and getting families talking about this issue, getting parents talking about this, getting the community talking about the effects that budget cuts have had. And I think that's a really, really good thing to have, because that's moving the conversation beyond just students, beyond professors, and into everyone's everyday life. And that's really important because university education is a public good, and we need to make sure that the government knows that. So one thing that we can do as students, we might not be able to prevent the cuts, but we can protect students and help them deal with those cuts. And that means making sure that we close loopholes, such as the mandatory non-instructional fees. That means making sure it's easier for students to access financial aid. And that means making it easier for students to voice their concerns. That's how I will deal with these problems, and that's how I think we should approach these issues.
All right, thanks. So I think that's a really great question because it does deal with a lot with what I want to do. It's getting out there in the faces of people. So I think we really do have to actually say, okay, talking about it is great and all, but what can we do to get everybody talking about it? Yes, your parents are talking about it. Yes, your professors are talking about it. But that's still a very small crowd. That's just a university and its extended family, right? So we really want to go out there and reach out to other public media organizations. We want to reach out to other groups that are affected by post-secondary education issues. So like the employers that aren't going to be getting as good students coming out, the unions that need our help or whatnot. We're talking to other people outside of this community, and I think that working together with somebody like VPSL, if I were to be elected, to coordinate large collective bodies of students to actually go out there and be large as a group and either do some sort of disruption like a protest or an occupation or something, whatever is necessary to make people recognize that there is a problem with post-secondary education. I think that's how the public face of things really does need to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? No? Okay.
Hi, my question's regarding the ARF plebiscite. So how many people actually participate in athletics and recreation programs? And how does our athletics and recreation fee compare to others?
All right, so I guess just before I answer that question, one of the things is this fee increase will directly go right back to the students. It will go towards the athletic and recreation for all students here on campus in terms of intramurals and other recreation facilities here in terms of staffing and hours. In terms of what kind of usage the students have here, I know last year 290,000 student visits were made to the Fitness and Lifestyle Center. I know everyone who's been in there understands how cramped, how hot, and how uncomfortable it is with that many people. So in terms of this fee, that will one thing that will be going towards the enhancement of these facilities and enhancement of these programs that better suits the student lifestyle here on campus, and that enhances all the students' experience in terms of recreation and athletics. And in terms of, the last point there, in terms of other schools, as I mentioned before, right now we're one of the lowest here in Canada, and other schools such as University of Toronto are at fees in terms of $150 per semester roughly, so we're significantly low. Thank you.
I'm going to ask one more too. Why would someone who doesn't go watch varsity sports be vote in favor of the fee increase?
Just one of the many perks for this fee increase is the free attendance to Golden Bears and Pandas home games here on campus. But in terms of outside of athletics, like I mentioned before, it's these resources and these facilities that the students have access to right now is the significant problem in question. So the enhancement of intramural programs and recreation programs is, like I said, the Lifestyle Center, other things around the phys ed building and other programs here as well. Some of the consequences of this fee, if this does not pass, would be the reduction of those programs. So in terms of hours, in terms of manpower, so that means a lot less limited space, less space, limited programs, limited facilities for the same number of students. So that's something that if you are a student here on campus and you are a part of the recreation and you are a healthy lifestyle fanatic, then that's something that will be reduced in terms of your quality here as a student at the University of Alberta.
Thank you, Caris. We've now come to the end of this forum. If you guys are still not convinced, we'll have our last and big forum at Meyer on Monday, March 3rd. So you guys are welcome to come and ask any question you have. So don't forget to vote on March 5th and 6th. Thank you all.